Hello, I am Sajit, your instructor. In this module, we will be discussing the aesthetic concepts of the great German philosopher George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. Hegel is one of the most significant thinkers of 19th century idealism. In the introduction of his lectures on fine arts, Hegel says that aesthetics had its origin as a new science of sensation and feeling. He finds this usage of the term inadequate and wanted to use the term aesthetics as the philosophy of art, or more definitely philosophy of fine art. As we know today, this usage of the term got wider acceptance and contemporary thinkers frequently refer to aesthetics in this context. But by adopting this expression, he at once had to exclude the beauty of nature from his system of aesthetics. According to Hegel, the beauty of art is higher than that of nature. The spirit and its productions stand above nature and its phenomena. Thus, the beauty of art can be considered above that of nature. You may differ. You may think, no, it is not true. But remember, it is within the spirit that the beauty of any natural object is relished. So, the experience of beauty is an expression of spirit itself. Thus, as an idealist, Hegel considered even a useless thought to be at a higher level than any form found in nature. To him, spirit alone is true, comprehending everything in itself. We will have to look deeper into the term spirit. The original German word used by Hegel is Geist. It does not have a parallel word in English, so it is translated as mind, ghost, or spirit. It is related to consciousness. Consciousness has moments or stages of progression from opposition of itself to absolute knowledge of itself. Spirit is the self-knowing idea, which is self-conscious reason. The movement of self-knowledge occurs at various levels of clarity to itself. Thus, spirit exists in the mode of self-alienation in nature. It thus exists and is conscious of itself, but does not know that it is conscious in itself. Spirit appears in human consciousness through its successive stages of clarity until it reaches the stage of absolute knowledge, wherein it becomes absolutely aware of itself. It is the idea of freedom which distinguishes spirit from matter. World history is the result of the interaction of spirit with matter. The development of mind happens in three stages. In the form of self-relation. This is subjective mind. Secondly, in the form of reality, that is, mind in a world produced by itself. This is objective mind. Thirdly, mind in its absolute truth. This is absolute spirit. In this Hegelian world of spirit, art stands as a distinctively sensory form of human self-expression. The realm of the sensory is the realm of individual things in space and time. Art also gives expression to spirit's self-understanding. In philosophy and religion, spirit expresses itself through concepts and faith. However, in art, it is through sensory objects that have been specifically made for this purpose by human beings, spirit expresses itself. Hegel extends his philosophical system of aesthetics by analyzing what is ideal beauty and how the spirit moves through stages of evolution of beautiful through history. He also analyzes the important forms of art in which this process happened. Beauty cannot be a mere product of nature. A kind of beauty can be found in natural forms, and life is capable of producing sensuousness. But as stated earlier, true beauty is the direct sensuous expression of the freedom of spirit. It must be produced by free spirit for free spirit. Thus, true beauty is found only in works of art which evoke the idea of freedom of spirit. Order and harmony are formal qualities found in the beautiful, but it cannot be mere regular patterned arrangements of elements. They have to be unified as an organic whole. Hegel is in opposition to many contemporary thinkers and artists in holding the view that content of art is also as important as form in art. To him, content is the idea as self-knowing spirit. Thus, the content of beautiful art will be the divine in human form or the freedom of humanity itself. The idea or spirit moves through three stages of embodiment in its transcendence through the sensuous forms of art towards the true idea of beauty. They are symbolic, classical, and romantic form of art. Man, when confronted by the grand and mysterious phenomena of nature, feels a concealed power operating within these forms. According to Hegel, man then feels the necessity to represent this power. Thus, particular objects like great mountains or sea lose their immediate meaning, and for the spirit they become images of power. Thus, the idea of an absolute power is at first manifested by the worship of nature. Man then proceeds further by creating symbols to represent the power. Thus, religion and idea of God is born. Thus, the symbolic form is born. Hegel speaks of the development of the ideal in the special forms of art in the lectures on aesthetics he delivered during 1818. At the level of idea, the idea itself wants an expression of itself in material form. But the material in itself is not capable of containing the pure spirit. So, distortion becomes an inevitability when the idea tries to give body to itself. Thus, form moves away from the pure idea. The idea becomes symbolically represented. Hegel names these representations as Vorkunst, that is, pre-art. For an Indian learner of Hegel, the classification of Hindu art under the symbolic form of pre-art by Hegel poses philosophical problems. We will discuss it later when we elaborate on the topic. After the pre-art stage, that is the symbolic stage, comes the classical stage where the exaggeration of form becomes idealized. The forms found in nature are perfected and idealized in the classical stage of art. But because the forms are more concerned with themselves, the spirit is barely visible through the form. In the third stage, that is the romantic stage of art, the outward form is idealized to contain the absolute spirit in its essence. The work of art is inward looking for its own essence. To Hegel, a perfect romantic form happens through the representation of the human ideal. In the final moment, the absolute spirit appears in and for itself. It becomes absolutely spiritual in its expression. The form becomes less matter and more spirit. Thus, he suggests architecture to be the most materialistic form of art and poetry to be the least, because it has got the least to do with matter. Hegel further divided the first symbolic stage into 4 phases of progression. In the first phase, the spirit is conceived to be in unity with nature. He cites the example of Zoroastrians, the 7th century BC religious tradition. Here, light is not used as a symbol, but it itself is related to God and good. Hegel says that this light is given form as Ahura Mazda. It was Zarathustra, the prophet, who proclaimed Ahura Mazda as the uncreated God, wise, benevolent and good, the creator of meaning. In the second phase, there is a difference between spirit and nature. Hegel states in his 1826 lectures on aesthetics that in the second stage, natural objects, the human being, animals are revered as divine and they are portrayed in sensuous form. He gives the example of Hindu art. In art, distortion happens in formative process and an exaggerated reflective form is created. Hindu concept of divinity is inseparable from forms, but the spirit indicates a distinctive presence and identity by the very distortion. To Hegel, these forms appear monstrous and grotesque. Thus, Hegel says that Hindu art fails in attaining the highest point of artistic expression, where the spirit is shown to be free in itself. In the circle of movement, the first and second stage can be thought to be placed at extreme positions. The third and fourth stage may be placed in between these two positions. In the third stage, the symbolic creation points inwards to the immortality of soul. Hegel cites the example of Egyptian art for this stage, but they lack to represent spiritual freedom of life because of the rigid static representation of figure. In the fourth stage of pre-art, the spirit and nature is totally separated from nature, but this spirit is attributed to the divine and not human. The divine creator is so separate from nature that nature is conceived as negative. Hegel takes Judaism as example. Hegel says Judaism cannot create real works of art because of this total separation of spirit and matter. According to Hegel, in the period Persian poets like Hafiz, this division operates not in such a negative level. Here the sense of presence of the spirit is visible in things. Now let us go back and discuss the view of Indian art given by Hegel. It is not to be thought that Hegel branded Indian art to be lower in technical excellence. He was putting forward his theory on the moments or stages of movement of spirit that is guised in art. The overall Western point of view at the colonial period towards Oriental art might have influenced the formulation of his theory. It is also notable that though Hegel gave high value in his study on history to China, he is silent about Chinese and Japanese art. It seems also relevant to remember that one of the aims of the newly set up art schools in India during 19th century was to reform the grotesque and demonic forms of the Indian pantheon. It is only natural that the ideas of the dominant artistic and religious movements of his own society found philosophical formulation in Hegel's aesthetic theory. The second phase, the classical stage, springs from the creative activity of the spirit. Hegel says it finds its origin in the inmost and most personal thought of the poet and of the artist. Hegel cites Greek art as example for the classical form of art. To protect this theory, Hegel has to counter the influence of Egyptian art in Greek culture. In his lectures on aesthetics, he invented an unconvincing argument. He states in the lectures on aesthetics, tradition furnishes the materials, but it does not bring with it the precise idea and the form with which each god has to be represented. The form is invented by the artist. The Greek gods are for this reason neither poetic invention nor an artificial creation. They have their root in the spirit and the beliefs of the Greek people. With this faculty of free creation, the artist takes a position altogether different from that which he had in the Orient. The Indian poets and sages have also for their point of departure the primitive data, but their imagination wander in the midst of conceptions which have neither the character of freedom nor that of beauty. What Hegel actually meant was that the Greeks were human-centered in their approach. Man recognizes himself in Greek creations. What the Greek artist produced were the most beautiful manifestations of his own outer form. According to Hegel, classic art constituted the absolutely perfect representation of the ideal the final completion of the realm of beauty. We may argue that Hegel failed to recognize the formal beauty present in Oriental art, perhaps because of a failure to totally comprehend their approach to the idealization of body, especially towards the female form. Greek approach to human form is very visibly male-centered. Romantic art is the next and final moment in the circle of the movement of spirit. Romantic art originates from the understanding that the spirit is more elevated than the beautiful sensuous outer form. Hegel states, only in its own world, the spiritual or inner world of the soul, that spirit can find a reality, Dasein, which corresponds to spirit. Only by realizing this can spirit experience the infinitude and pure freedom. Spirit thus rises to attain self-consciousness. In romantic art, the human must go beyond subjectivity or personality to become the principle. Thus, anthropomorphism for the first time attains to its ultimate fullness and perfection in romantic art, not the classical art. In classical art, plastic forms of the gods do not express the movement and activity of spirit. But in romantic art, the human form is so represented that it is recognized at once as having the divine within itself. Man appears here as the self-knowing one and universal God himself, infinite consciousness. Subjective spirit becomes eternal and infinite. In art, the romantic spirit may appear as introspection and religiosity, heroism and expression of freedom, as formal independence of character. Hegel also gives an order of progression to different art forms. To him, architecture stays closer to matter, but has purified the external world and endowed it with symmetrical order. Next comes the sculpture, and after it comes painting. Further distant from matter and nearer to spirit is music. Music transforms the indifferent externality of space and treats the sensuous as ideal. The most spiritual mode of representation is poetry. The movement of spirit towards its absolute idea of freedom happens through three moments or stages: the thesis, the antithesis, and synthesis. Hegel does not use the term synthesis, but he speaks of the whole. It is this movement which we call history. If the symbolic phase is the thesis, then the classical phase will be the antithesis and romantic phase the synthesis. Then there is a possibility for repetition. This is how history is generated, and at one point when the absolute spirit becomes in itself, history ends. We find many contemporary art historians like the American art historian Arthur Danto writing on the end of art. It is based on this Hegelian concept of the end of history. Greenberg also states that in American abstract expressionism, a work of art realizes itself because it realizes its own process of creation and being in itself and autonomous. Hegel's dialectical method was adapted by Marxian thought into dialectical materialism, but Western Marxist school thinkers like Adorno criticized Hegelian dialectics for not accounting for the pain and suffering in the course of historical progression. Adorno also considers religious art as related to a specific function, thus cannot be termed autonomous in pure spirit. Now, before concluding this session, I would like to stress the fact that Hegel's theory is to be understood in normative terms. Even Hegel himself has applied his own theory in a peripheral way in many situations. One example may be the historical examples of Egyptian, Indian and Greek art. But if we disregard the examples and only look at the thought process, we will understand the greatness of Hegel's philosophical and aesthetic system. Now it is time we conclude. Till we meet again, bye.